Hello. So I'd like to take a few minutes to give a quick update about Graybar. If you've been looking at the last few updates, you see that I've managed about 2 a month so far. You can see here from the web page. Um, and I've been working on Graybar quite a lot. I've actually been adding new systems on the server side, on the client side, and for the map editor. But if you kind of follow the updates or kind of wanted to look at what I've been doing, it's quite hard to do that just by looking at things like source code commits and logs on GitHub. And I was trying to think of a way how I could kind of capture the last month or so worth of work, because although I've been working on a whole bunch of stuff, there's probably not one thing or one system that makes sense for one blog post. Kind of everything's all in the middle of editing at the moment. One thing I thought I could show you is look at a visualization of source code history using this really cool tool called Gorse, or I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, if you look at kind of the directory I'm in at the moment, so this is the source code for the Graybar map editor, and so I showed you this in previous posts. So there's a lot of source code here. It's all written in Java, but using this tool called Gorse, we can kind of visualize the history of the source code. And so at the top here, you've got the date. So this is April 2017. So it's obviously going all the way back to the early history of the project. And you can see me here. There's my little icon, a little person. And you see me kind of flying around, basically working on source code as time goes on. And the little kind of green lasers are me adding files. The red lasers are me deleting stuff. And the kind of orange kind of lasers, the kind of orange lights are me kind of changing files. And as you can see over time, I'm running around doing a whole bunch of code changes here. Each of these files, each of these round circles represents a file. And when they're all grouped together, that's kind of one directory. So over here, that's the graphical interface for the map editor. That's kind of all the windows. Over here, ooh, over here, that's kind of like the core part of the editor, like the texture cache and that kind of stuff. What do we have over here? That's part of the trigger system, actions and triggers. That's a whole system that I would like to write a blog post about, triggers, but it's still kind of in development and still needs a bit more work before I can really make a proper blog post out of it. You can see I stopped flying around here, so this is just me, kind of what I've been doing on the map editor, and this is a graphical view of what that map editor looks like so far. And it's, I think, probably more interesting if I show you the client, so the actual game itself. I'll do the same thing. Again, so starting back last year, because there's a whole bunch of code that makes up the client. And again, I'll fly around, editing and adding stuff over time. So what do we have over here? The blue dots, these are all the textures. So the textures are the background of the tiles. And then on the left-hand side of the screen is kind of more the source code that makes up the client. So there's a lot of blue files here, but they're just textures. You just need a lot of them. They're not very complicated. Obviously, the really hard stuff is over here in the source code. And that's kind of like the core game engine. And as we kind of fast forward to more recent times, you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff being added. There you go. There's a load of work on textures all there. See, everything was span around and changed. There's a whole bunch of work on textures. I think I was changing some texture formats and directories. Over here is all the README.